Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation. With a real focus on energy this spring, and yeah, I am calling it spring, even though it's kind of still towards the start of March, focusing very much on energy and vitality. That's what we do on this podcast. Thank you for listening. Today's guest is a good one and a repeat guest on Zestology. Maneesh Sethi is a bit of a mad scientist, actually. He is the man behind Pavlok, which is a wearable that retrains your brain. He's worked with major influencers like Tim Ferris. He's a famous DJ in Berlin. That's a story for another time. In fact, I think that's a story we told on another podcast. And he's even been a host on the Travel Channel as well. The Pavlok Wristband was invented after Maneesh stumbled upon a pamphlet on 60s aversion research. And Maneesh has ADHD and couldn't focus or complete a single task of project without losing concentration. So what Maneesh did was he paid someone to slap him every time he strayed from his work at hand. This is a few years ago. And it worked. So he invented the Pavlok to do a similar thing. And they used to say that it kind of gave you a little shock, but now I think they call it slightly different. They say it gives you a little nudge than a shock. But that was the kind of the first Pavlok prototype, and that was how it all transpired. Maneesh just paid someone to give him a nudge and give him a slap when he wasn't focusing. So, interesting man and a very interesting podcast guest as well. I know you'll get a lot out of this. He's totally fits the energy bill, and we do talk quite a bit about energy and wellness and biohacking. Here he is, Maneesh Sethi on Zestology. We are recording. Maneesh, great to talk to you. How are you?
I'm doing really good. It's been so long, Tony.
It's been ages. I mean, back in the day, you came on Zestology quite a few times, didn't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Gave us kind of lots of hacks for productivity and behavior change and everything else. Before we get on to all of that, how's the last year been for you, and how is it at the moment?
Last year has been like our big pivot moment and the big positive shifting moment. Over the last year, we launched our new product, Pavlok 3. And I'm happy to say for the first time, it's beautiful rather than like the old styles, which were just not so pretty. So that was big. And then a second thing that's been big for us is we created a new like community membership where people are challenged to do good habits. And so our team has been growing, our products have been growing. The quantity of success stories we get is like massively shifted. So for me, this has been a really, really good year.
Good. Have you found that, I mean, obviously it's been so challenging for people in so many ways. Have you found that what you do and what Pavlok does is actually kind of helping people a bit? Because it's pretty challenging at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that, for sure. I think that being a digital entrepreneur is very lucky for me because our company was already remote. And, at the beginnings of the pandemic, obviously people were not buying products at all. And over time, as people started to go back to work, we started to see more and more, like basically everything has gone back to normal for us, and then better. I think that a lot of people have been having a lot of issues, especially like people who are getting new jobs, often have trouble reverting back into like positive daily habits. I think our most common use case is waking up in the morning for a new job. And it makes a lot of sense that after 6 months, if you're laid off, suddenly you get a new job. It's really hard to bring back that old style of just waking up. So I think, and then like a side thing, which is a small use case for our product, is that it tracks and gives you vibrations when you touch your face. It was designed for nail biting, but for people who are trying to restrict touching their face, that's been like a side issue.
Oh, that's a great idea, because actually we do it a lot, and we've heard a lot about how that can be a major way that you would catch the virus.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that, like, for me personally, the pandemic, made us really refine and decide on what's important, but it hasn't had big deleterious effects to us. I think that I really, really do honor, and really, I'm kind of frightful for all the people who are suffering from this pandemic. I just moved back to one of my favorite countries, Colombia, and here in Medellin, Colombia, in the country, there's like a 26% unemployment rate, and already they're a fairly they're not a wealthy nation, but imagine having such a high unemployment rate. I'm just hoping that we can help make the world better over time. Is what my goal is.
Personally speaking, it doesn't sound like you've been too badly affected. I'm really pleased for that. And I mean, Colombia, I don't know much about the country, but from everything that I've seen and heard, it sounds like it might be quite a nice place to be for how long are you going to be there? For a few months or a few years? Or what?
I was in Mexico for the last 5 months, and then now I'm in Colombia for a month or two. My favorite, I'm planning to go to Bali, which is my favorite place. And so those are kind of the main countries I tend to be in: Mexico, Bali, Colombia, and eventually Europe when they let me back in.
And that's what you can do when you run your own business and you can work remotely. Bali's borders are closed, though, aren't they, at the moment?
Yeah, they've started to reopen it if you have a special visa, but yeah, it's mostly closed.
Yeah. So for people who haven't heard, can we just go over what the Pavlok actually does? Because I'm fascinated at it and the kind of tie-in with everything that I learned years ago in terms of NLP.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at its core, Pavlok is a wearable device that you pair to your phone, and it allows you to choose specific habits that you want to form or break. And it gives you positive reinforcement to help encourage you to do those behaviors, and it gives you a negative reinforcement and reminders to help you stop doing those behaviors. So in the early days, I mean, we were really famous for what our core original product did, which was help zap you out of bad habits using an electric stimulus. That's no longer our focus. Bad habit cessation is still a thing that our product does. But now we're more known for the fact that we're one of the best alarm clocks. We're probably the best alarm clock on the planet in terms of actually getting you up and out of bed. We also are very powerful as a mindfulness tool. It provides gentle reminders throughout the day to stay mindful, as well as vibration patterns that simulate breathing. So rather than you just seeing a push notification on your phone, you actually feel breathe in, breathe out. And at the end of the day, our main goal is to help people stay consistent and commit to the tasks that they want to stick through with.
And how does it, with the behavior change stuff, how does it actually work? You know, you mentioned, for example, the hand going to the face and touching to the face. How does the technology actually work there to reinforce positive habits and get you to stop doing the stuff that you don't want to do?
Yeah, so there's like a few ways of approaching the problems depending on the specific habit. So for us, one big thing has been sensors and getting like integrations and powerful integration sensors built in. So for example, we have internally accelerometers and gyroscopes, so we're able to detect when hand motion occurs as well as like step count. But secondly, we began integrating with other parts and other tools. So for example, with Apple Shortcuts, with your Apple Watch and Apple Health, as well as with different like rescue time or Chrome extensions. So for productivity, if you are wasting too much time on social media, let's say you want to stop using Instagram after 8 p.m., for example, our Apple Shortcut integration allows you to trigger it so that if you open up Instagram after 8 p.m., it sends you a beep or a buzz or a zap and reminds you to not do that behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then our biggest one, of course, is waking up in the morning, which has become very popular. And basically the core there is that our device tracks your sleep cycles and it gives you a light vibration in your lightest sleep. It's silent, and many users just stop there. They don't want to disturb their significant other. They just want a silent alarm clock. Done. But for heavy sleepers, we have the ability to have it trigger a alarm, which will become a zap unless you get out of bed and scan a QR code or do jumping jacks. So So we see many users who, for example, will set a QR code in their kitchen, and then they just get they get a vibration. They have about a minute or two to get out of bed and get to that other room, and they're out of bed. And if they sleep through the alarm, they'll get a zap, and that's a game changer for heavy sleepers.
That's classic. I mean, I think I would prefer the first option. I quite like to kind of take my time in the morning, but for a lot of people, they hit snooze so many times, and they don't have enough control over themselves to actually get out of bed, do they?
No. And I mean, like I've heard about this from users, but I myself don't have this issue. I never use an alarm clock to wake up. But I recently started dating a girl, and my girlfriend, every time when she first began sleeping in the same room as me, I started to notice that she had an alarm set for 8:30, 8:31, 8:32, 8:33, and there was over 100 alarms between 8:30 and 10. And I was like, dude, this is not okay. And so I gave her the device and I showed her how to do it. For her, it was no jumping jacks or anything. Just it would vibrate for 30 seconds, then beep for 30 seconds, and then zap if she hadn't disabled the alarm by pushing the buttons. Right. And within the first day, she got zapped. And since then, she's never been zapped again. And her alarm count dropped from 100 to 1. So to me, it was a very clear vindication and clarity of the quality of what we're doing.
Yeah, that's great. Because your background, I remember, I mean, you've always had your fingers in a few pies and have been involved in a few different ventures, haven't you? And you were involved for years in writing all sorts of blogs on behavior change and productivity.
Yeah, the site was called Hack the System. Yeah. And I would do experiments and try to find hacks, both for mental and productivity hacks, as well as like loopholes in the system in order to get free plane tickets or be able to become, hack fame, things like that. So I think in a lot of ways, like it sounds, it's very representative of my ADHD, ENTP personality, this visionary type, where I like to do lots of stuff. And only recently have I realized that you can kind of put things together and create systems that enable you to actually complete and execute multiple different things at the same time under the same umbrella. Yeah.
Do you still have lots of other stuff going on as well as Pavlok, or you just really focus on one thing now?
Pavlok is everything to me. But that said, Pavlok is an umbrella. So like Pavlok as a wake up device is different than Pavlok as our new hardware products we're releasing, which are like power accessories and for charging. And Pavlok as a behavior change system involves our new social aspect of having groups of people doing a challenge together. So essentially Pavlok is kind of like the brand between everything I do, and I don't think I'll ever stop doing it. But the umbrella of Pavlok lets me do everything I want under the guise of the same brand.
That's great. Yeah. And on a personal level, obviously I think it sounds like you've got a brain a bit like me. You're always looking to kind of optimize or improve. And my mind is constantly alive, which can be quite annoying at 4 o'clock in the morning when I've suddenly had an idea. But is there anything that you've any hacks or tweaks that you've made to your lifestyle, apart from moving to Colombia recently, that have made a big difference?
Yeah, this was something I built. So I started doing a master's in clinical psychology at the same time as running this company, which is, whatever, I'm almost done. It's hard, but it's almost over. And so while doing so, I started to understand more about statistical analysis and how clinical studies are run and how to create change. And one thing that blew my mind is the concept around these double-blind, single variable studies. And how when you do like a clinical trial, you take, groups of people and you give them, the keto diet has shown that in 30% of people with P is less than 0.05, that diet helps you lose weight. And that's different than when you're doing A/B testing on a website where you say, I don't care what the studies say. I care which one of these sites outperforms the other. Yeah. And I started thinking about this deeply, and I realized that so what I started to understand is that for individuals, you don't care what the study says. You care what actually changes you, right? You don't care if the keto diet works on average. You care if it works for you. And breaking this down into a personal level, I created this little software that's internal now. Eventually we'll release it, where we integrate all of our data. So my MyFitnessPal food data and my step count and my weight data, and correlate it to see what are the items that make me gain weight and the items that make me lose weight versus not what other people care about, but for me. And some of the big breakthroughs that I had was one around my productivity and it increases and my weight reduces if I sleep less than 6 hours, not more. but less. It's backwards from the average person. Wow. Another thing was, so by running that on myself, I started to pull out the bright points and institute those into my own personal life. And I'm realizing that a lot of the productivity advice that we hear these days are all optimized around this idealistic, non-real person. And by instead correlating my own activities with my own successes and failures and instituting those changes, those have been a really big breakthrough for me.
That's great. I mean, something that I've been working on for years is I collect lots of metrics and data on all sorts of things in my life. And some of it is, very specific. The Oura ring will say that my heart rate was X amount overnight. And some of it is subjective. Oh, my energy levels were like 7 out of 10 today kind of thing. And one of the things that I've always struggled with is the software to analyze the data. And there's nothing I've found that is perfect. I mean, I've tried every app out there. But it sounds to me like you've designed something that could work quite well. And I think that'd be a massive win for you guys if you could make it work. I'd be all over it.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it later. It's not public for right now, but I'll show you. You can integrate your Oura score and MyFitnessPal and Apple Health right now and see correlations there.
Great. Yeah. That's really cool. Because, I mean, ultimately, what we want is, as you say, we can try all sorts of things, but how do we know if it actually works or not? Well, if you've got out of bed within 1 minute. But some things are a little bit more subjective and a little bit more hard to correlate. On the days that I take omega-3s, do I feel a little bit more brain power or whatever it might be? And that's where I think it's really important to collect some kind of data.
Yeah, and I think that like a lot of things that we do as a society is based on these concepts of like what is healthy and what is not healthy. And the truth is that it's individualized. And it, like my sister, she was trying to lose weight and she was like going to the gym a lot and doing cardio. And she said like her weight was staying the same. And I did a correlation on her and I found out a very interesting fact, which was that almost every single day that she did cardio, she gained weight. And also with almost a 100% correlation, every day that she did cardio, she ate white rice. And so the cardio running was making her crave white rice, which was destroying the positive effects of the cardio. And she could never have known that because she was simply following the concept of this do cardio, you'll lose weight. And I think that, so that I'd really like to be able to deliver this to users as experiments so that users can start to, understand themselves and then improve themselves without these like falsehoods of butter is unhealthy or butter is healthy or wine is healthy or wine is unhealthy. Every day you hear something different. I want to really solve for the individuals. And I think that that's kind of where we're moving towards.
That's really cool. Yeah, there are a couple of sites that do it. They're not perfect. Exist is one of them that tries to do it. And I think Gyroscope as well.
I've never heard of Exist. I'll check that out.
Gyroscope, I think it's exist.io, I think.
Awesome.
It's not perfect, but it's but they're trying, and it's I mean, all of these things are interesting. You'll enjoy playing around with that one as well, and maybe get some ideas for yours. But I'd love to have a go. I've got spreadsheets of data that's completely useless because I don't know how to analyze it. Because I don't have the mathematical brain to actually build something to analyze it. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's okay. That's why we bring other people on our team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Back to the podcast in one moment, but wanted to tell you about my podcast partner today, and it is one that is very on topic for Zestology. This podcast is all about energy and vitality, and today's podcast partner is CogniBiotics, nature's most powerful mood booster. When you can elevate your mood, you will naturally feel more energized. You'll naturally feel happier for no reason. It kind of combines biohacking and ancient wisdom as well. That's why I really like CogniBiotics, and it's one of the best podcast partners I've had in a while. Now, if you want a little bit more on this, you can head to cognibiotics.com/zestology. It's cognibiotics.com/zestology. And it's kind of like a probiotic blend with a prebiotic complex. And then the magic bit, the bit that gives it the Cogni bit, is a Chinese herbal blend, and some of the stuff they've put in here properly fits the bill of biohacking. It's really impressive and it works really well as well. I think you reduce those down days when you take CogniBiotics. You can stabilize your mood naturally. You can reduce stress, reduce anxiety, and produce mood boosting vitamins like vitamin K and vitamin B12 as well. And thus far, before CogniBiotics, there's not many supplements that I've found do something similar to this. L-theanine I quite like, and I take that sometimes, but CogniBiotics might be the most powerful mood booster and totally natural as well. You can go to cognibiotics.com/zestology and you'll get 10% off if you use the code zestology10. So that's good, isn't it? cognibiotics.com/zestology. 17 powerful brain herbs to enhance your mood and manage stress and improve memory. Just take the edge off a little bit, which I think we all need at the moment. And it comes with a 1-year guarantee as well. So if you're not happy with it, you don't like it, you're not convinced, you can send it back and they'll give you a full refund as well. So as I say, I consider this pursuit of energy that we go on Zestology as being a combination of ancient wisdom and modern technology. And when the ancient natural wisdom can't step in, we bring in a little bit of modern know-how to boost it a little bit. And I think CogniBiotics combines the two really well by the kind of ancient wisdom of Chinese medicine and then all the modern research we've got to say, all right, well, we know that probiotics, prebiotics and these Chinese herbs will really help you as well. So it's cognibiotics.com/zestology. Use the code zestology10 to get 10% off. And if you're in the UK, just head to the UK BiOptimizers site, and it is a product made by BiOptimizers. You can use the code zestology10 there and you'll get 10% off as well. Do you know what? I really like these CogniBiotics and I've been using them regularly. I'd love to hear from you and see how you get on with them. That's it. Back to the show. Well, great. I'm glad things are going well. And, it's really interesting. Once you've got the hardware that can do certain things, as you say, you can apply it to different uses. And it sounds like over the last year with your community, so I guess sometimes they come up with ideas that you hadn't even thought of.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have this new feature request board and people submit ideas and then other users can upvote or downvote them. And it's really great. The fact is there's infinite things you can do. There's infinite ideas that I have. There's infinite things that we could do. And the question is what actually will resonate with people, and figuring that out is one, but a lot of also things people don't know what they don't know. People, if you ask them if I asked them what they wanted, they would have asked for a faster horse, is that famous quote by Henry Ford. Yeah. And so putting those two together, that visionary, my ideas are getting much more refined and much more manufacturable than they ever used to be, because now I know what's possible and not. But combining that with advice from our users and hearing just small things and putting them together becomes the hard part for me is the fact that the ideas don't stop. They don't slow down. They get faster, and it's not like it's ever going to slow down. And so creating the right systems to generate products and create what the solutions that I want to build, that's really my dream right now, is how do I get that process of invention to be perfected so I can create better things faster, more commonly, and more often.
Yeah, and with the kind of mind you've got, it sounds like it's working all the time and you're thinking about how to make Pavlok better and the products better. Have you set up any rules on your Pavlok to slow down or switch off or make sure that you don't work every hour that God sends?
Well, I do meditate every day. I'm at a 725-day streak, so I'm proud of that. But, honestly, sometimes I've noticed that my ideas drop after meditation, and I'm not trying to feel better. My goal is not to be happy in this life. My goal is to create something that leaves a legacy and has meaning. And sometimes I wonder if I correlated my meditation quality versus my creation quality, if there's an inverse relationship, And so the answer to that is that I have basic rules around the idea of be in bed by midnight. And I have specific calls where I execute upon actions. But I don't really have any real functions around turning off my ideas yet.
Yeah. So you don't want to be happy. You want to.
I am happy, but it's not. Yeah. It's not the metric I care about, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I suppose you're in Colombia, where presumably there is plenty to make you happy.
Yeah, it's a good place.
But yeah, you're very driven. You're a very, very driven individual. I remember that from when we've talked before, and that probably. I think a lot of the people that you meet in this world tend to be type A personalities, and you are as well. And sometimes it's people like you who need the meditation more. And I'm saying that it's the same for me as well. So that's interesting. But the accountability thing, you track? You're on your 725-day streak for the meditation.
Yeah, I use the Calm app. Yeah, it's good. It works.
Yeah, me and my other half, we have a WhatsApp group, and we just write how long we've meditated in each day, and then we know if we haven't written it in there, the other one will know. So it keeps you honest. So where are you now? It looks like you're in a hotel lobby or something like that.
I'm in a hotel lobby right now. Yeah, I'm at my hotel.
Well, the sound is great.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Something that I've asked you before and ask everybody is, what is one book that you would recommend and one tip for living with more energy and vitality? So it could be any book, one that's had a big impact on you, or one that you've read recently and enjoyed.
Let's see. So one book, recently I've begun reading biographies of people in history with my same personality type. And I found that to be very different than reading other biographies, because you get, so one that's been really inspiring, and this, I often when I talk about this, it upsets people for some reason. But my favorite biography I've been reading is about Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison, he was the inventor of the first audio recorder. He came up with the filament light bulb. But then people don't always remember everything else he did, like the first ever A battery, the first ever electric car was invented by him, the first ever concrete building. And to me, his book is long, but understanding how he took the concept of invention away from a solitary person to being the first ever to develop a lab where people, his designers, his chemists, his biologists would all work together with let's rapidly generate new products. That to me has been one of the most inspiring books I've been reading recently. So that was your first question. And then your second question was around a tip. That
sounds good. Yeah. The second question is, what is one tip for living with more energy and vitality? Because this podcast is ultimately about living a more energized life.
Sure. So the tip that I have, and the thing that's really changed my productivity and happiness and levels, has been around, first of all, optimizing around my personality is a big thing. So figuring out who you are and understanding that some things that I say right now, like the advice I'm about to give, will not apply to half of the users probably. When I broke down, there's a book I read called The Art of Speed Reading People, which was about how do you identify others' personality types, but also your own. And that made me realize that I'm a very extroverted person who's unlikely to finish stuff. But I'm very good at working on stuff with people. And as I broke that down more, I realized that I really I hate sitting in my laptop to do something unless there's either a deadline or I'm doing it simultaneously on a call with somebody. And that made me realize that I have the ability to have Zoom calls now with my team and do work together. And so the big thing that has adjusted my productivity has been setting up, I have 4 or 5 team calls a day with different people, and we work on the projects together. And instead of us just saying stuff and then assigning it and then checking in the next day, we just knock it out. And I think that ability, that's been a breakthrough for me. And if you are a kind of person who works well with other people, I'd highly recommend you try it out with a friend. Just do a phone call and work on something together. And and for many people who don't work with anybody else, there's a website called focusmate.com where you can set a calendar appointment with somebody else. And you basically do virtual co-working simultaneously. You'll both tell what you're going to work on for the next hour and then mute your mic and then work on it. And for some reason, the social aspect has been a big tip towards generating vitality and desire and productivity.
Great. So you just basically keep the call open and you kind of co-working, and sometimes you might not talk to each other for a couple of minutes while you're working. Sometimes you might. Is that the way it works?
Yeah. Great.
That's such a good idea. I mean, in this world of remote working, it's so intense because you've got calls all the time. But yeah, that's I think that would work really well. Like that, Maneesh. I'll try that. It's lovely to talk to you. Where can people find out more about the Pavlok?
Yeah, definitely. Check out pavlok.com. The new Pavlok 3 is out as well. So if I can send a link to you, maybe you can put it in the notes. There's a thing called the Pavlok 3 Challenge, which is great. You get to start off with the new Pavlok 3. You join a group of people who are committing to their habits, and you get 50% off your price if you hit your goals. So
awesome.
Check it out. It's I'll send you the link, but it's pavlok.com/pavlok3-challenge.
Great. Yeah, I had a look at the site today. It all looks really good. I'm really pleased it's going so well. Great to talk to you. Enjoy Colombia.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Very enjoyable podcast. thank you to Maneesh, and thank you for listening as well. And a quick reminder on today's podcast partner, this podcast has been brought to you by the powerful Brain Herbs. And you may well want to get involved with these, brought to you from BiOptimizers, who I've teamed up with quite a few times recently, and I've always enjoyed it. It is easy to blame the news or bad things going on in the world for when you're kind of feeling a little bit down or not yourself. But it could be caused by other things, and it could be caused by what's going on in the body as well. Gut problems and a deficiency in serotonin. And CogniBiotics are a breakthrough mood-enhancing formula made by BiOptimizers, all about biooptimizing the mind and the gut. CogniBiotics, almost like two supplements in one really, because it supports your mood and brain health through two different channels. It employs 17 powerful brain herbs to enhance mood, manage stress, and improve memory. And if you're not interested by now, you never will be, because I know this is the kind of thing that Zestology listeners like, and I really like CogniBiotics as well. Comes with a full 1-year guarantee too, so that's one of the best things really. If you don't like it, just send it back. And head to cognibiotics.com/Zestology. Hope you don't have as many trials and tribulations trying to spell CogniBiotics as I did when I first typed it in. I'm sure you'll be all right. CogniBiotics.com/Zestology. Use the code Zestology10 to receive 10% off any order. If you're in the UK, just head to bioptimizers.co.uk and use that same code Zestology10 for 10% off any order. CogniBiotics, it's all about optimizing the gut, but then giving your brain a little boost. As I call it, powerful brain herbs. Enjoy. And yeah, thanks for listening to Zestology. Finally, if you would like to head to TonyWrighton.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, which goes out every Monday. The 3 zesty things, the things that are energizing me, giving me vitality, boosting my energy levels, and kind of upgrading my wellness and my health. And that goes out every Monday. And it takes a long time to do actually, but I do enjoy it, so I'd love you to get it as well. TonyWrighton.com, and it will be very clear how to sign up there. Right, it may be spring, but it's quite chilly, so I'm going to go, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.